There was just nowhere else to run. Like there was no money to rob Peter with, to pay Paul. There was just nowhere else to run. I had one phone number in my phone of an entrepreneur that I knew was successful. And I sent him a text and I said, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? And he said, yeah, of course. And so we met up at a coffee shop at the Village Coffee Spot. And I said, look, I'm going to share with you what I've been too afraid to share with anybody else. And he's like, all right, go ahead. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm in a situation, I don't know how I'm going to get myself out of it. Like I just know that if I keep going down this path, it's like everything I care about is feels like it's coming to an end. And he said, why have you been so scared to share that with him? He's like, did you not realize that's what virtually every entrepreneur experiences at some stage of their journey? And I was like, I did not know that. He said, yeah. He's like, what you're experiencing is not abnormal.
You are listening to the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, brought to you by Salty Electrolytes. On this podcast, your host, Riley Rogers, explores the stories of people who get after it, get things done, and earn their salt. You will hear from high achievers who discuss what makes them tick, how they got to where they are today, and where they're headed tomorrow. Perhaps this podcast will help you go earn your salt. Today I've got my friend Matt Schneider on the show. Matt and I know each other again from the jiu-jitsu mats. We first met there. Actually, we first met in the business networking group, didn't we? Before jiu-jitsu.
Was it?
At the bank over there by Walmart off of Overland.
Oh, okay, at the Icon Credit Union.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
was
that's
I speaking
the first time I met you and Kristen, and then say that again.
Was I speaking at it?
You were a guest, I think, the same day I was.
Okay.
And then we met later at Team Rhino. So,
okay.
But anyways, Matt's on here. I invited him here today because he's got an interesting story. He's a great business mind. He's a go-getter. He's an entrepreneur, and he's done some really cool things in the world. And he knows that grind, that what it takes to build a new thing, and then pivot if you have to into a new venture. So, Matt, welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Riley. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. So, tell us about yourself. Who are you? Where'd you grow up? What was life like as a kid?
Oof, such a loaded question. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a husband and father. I'll be married 20 years in just a few days. So June 7th will be my wife and I's 20-year anniversary. Pretty proud of that.
Oh, congrats, man.
Yeah, thank you. Our son, he'll be 17 this month as well. He actually struck gold with the whole birthday thing because June 25th is his birthday. So every 6 months on the dot, that guy, he's gotten a party and presents and so he doesn't have to wait too terribly long before there's like a new celebration where he's got all of his friends and family over. But he's the.
See, I was always jealous about those kids, man, because my birthday is in December, like 6 days before Christmas, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I get it. One a year.
Well, my wife, Kristen, she her birthday is on Christmas Eve. So she really gets robbed. Yeah, she really gets robbed. But, that's all she's known her whole life. And we've always made it a point to do something on the front end of the month to kind of recognize it before the Christmas thing really started kicking off and people were just consumed with Old St. Nick and everything there. But, we live in Star, Idaho. We just actually moved to Star from Eagle, Idaho, which is a suburb of Boise. And we've been entrepreneurs now since 2013. So I guess about 13 years we've been entrepreneurs. I grew up in Eastern Idaho. My wife grew up in Western Idaho. My upbringing and hers were, they couldn't be any more different. She grew up in a very stable home, LDS, a lot of core values, a lot of being taught right from wrong, and being shown the way through adolescence into young adulthood, into adulthood, and mine was it looked very different. And, I say that with no ill intent or to shine a negative light on my mom, especially because it was really her that raised me and my 4 siblings. But there was constantly men coming and going my whole life, and she just had a tough time picking quality guys. I never did get to know my father, my biological father. He was a wife-beating alcoholic, and so my mom left him when I was 3. She was about 7 months pregnant with my little brother, and then my older brother, he's 6 years older than I am. So she just loaded us up one day and drove us from San Francisco to Newport Beach, where my grandmother lived at the time, and she didn't have a place for us. Somehow we ended up on a little houseboat. But when I say little houseboat, it's the kind where like there's like a little living quarters underneath the deck, like one bed and things. I was too small to really. I don't have any memory specifically, but there's a picture of me climbing out of this little houseboat when I was just a little tyke, and we moved around a lot. It seemed like every time my mom got into a new relationship, we were moving around, and I've learned later on in life that the kinds of superpowers that come with these kinds of experiences, but it came at a price of never really being taught what it's like to be a man and a husband and a to nature and nurture, and what it means to be a provider, not just financially but emotionally, and all the other things, protector, not just physically but of the future and goals and the whole thing, right? I wasn't taught those things. I had to learn those along the way. When I say I'm proud of our 20 year... Let me ask you a
question on that.
Yeah.
Do you said you had to learn those things on the way, or along the way. What did you do? So there's 2 mindsets you can take, right? You can take either I'm a victim and this is just the way it is and this is the way I'm going to be, or man, I don't like the way this is. I'm going to learn a different way. So how did you go about that?
The best that I haven't done any like formal like deep therapy on it, like EMDR or ayahuasca, these plant-based medicines where you like really go internal to resolve things. I've never done that. I'm on that path. I really want to go down and do a ayahuasca a retreat thing, but to the best that I am aware right now, I just chose different. I just didn't want to repeat. There was just so much instability and never really be able to like root in, and so I learned a lot of things that I did not want to have be present my entire life. I learned a lot about what kinds of things would create the uncertainty, the constant shifting and pivoting, and I didn't want that for myself. I didn't want that for my future family. I certainly didn't want that for my future kids, and so I just chose different. And so the lessons I was learning was like, I'm just going to kind of do the opposite of a lot of what I was exposed to. So that's, I was younger when I started to pick up on that, but I don't recall any real one specific like pivotal moment per se where I was like, you know what, this is how I'm going to break the cycle, or this is, lots of just incremental times where I'm like, this is not the way I want my entire life to go.
So when you say you were young, kind of, because I went through a similar thing, man. I had a kind of a similar childhood where my dad was actually the solid one, but my stepmother was not, right?
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
And I remember some of those same thoughts as a really young kid. I had step siblings come into the picture when I was 6, and I got to watch some life decisions that they made, and I learned from that, and my mindset even as a little boy was, man, I don't know if I want to go. That looked like it hurt. That looked painful, and it sounds like you're kind of in that same boat.
Yeah. My mom was, very loving, and she had her own needs, she had her own wants, she had her own life as far as like her own human experience and wanting to do life with somebody else. And she just didn't pick the right guys to do that with. So there was no longevity to it. But she always would make sure that we were never mistreated by these guys. Like, her kids were always number one. So we were never really exposed early on. Yes. Early on, the guy that she got together with and married right after my father, he was still physically abusive, not to me, but to my older brother. And I remember those things, but that's the last time I remember her being in a relationship with somebody that was like, abusive in any way. So she did a good job as she went on picking guys that were going to not mistreat us. Now, they weren't getting to the relationship because they wanted 5 additional stepkids, and they wanted to take that on. They were getting into it because of my mom. And so when that relationship went from the initial fun honeymoon stage to like real life, usually within a couple of years, that's where we would start to experience the transition again. And that's where, it was out with the old and in with the new. That came new schools, new towns, new everything. But I really contribute a lot of the way in which I process just the landscape that we all navigate in. For me personally and professionally, like my ability to not get wound up about things and really having much more of like a stoic way about me. Like it's very hard to get me riled up. It's very hard to get me overly excited about anything, because I just grew up knowing it's going to be okay. Like everything's going to be all right, and it's always turned out to be that way. So, I to your point, I find the superpowers in it. I refuse to take the victim approach. There's just there's no fruit there. There really isn't. So I choose to go the other way.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, man, because you can grow up in the same house. I don't know what your siblings, how they chose to do life, but I look at my siblings and I see the variety there. I see them learn from some mistakes of other people, and sometimes they just go down the same road, do the same thing, and it's like it repeats another generation or two. Yeah. So my little sister, the youngest of the 5, and I are really the ones that found our way out of the cycle. My other sister, she was born with her umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, and so she was handicapped and disabled her entire life, and so of course she gets a free pass for like the cycle situation. But when it comes to my little brother and my older brother, they unfortunately, that's a generation that wasn't broken. Kind of thankfully, my older brother doesn't have any kids, and so just by that, that cycle will break with him. But my little brother's got a few, and that's been a kind of a rough thing for them. Yeah. So you grow up and you start to enter adulthood, and when did you get into law enforcement part of your career?
Yeah, it's kind of it's funny how I got into it, because I wasn't a kid that grew up wanting to be a cop. I actually was a bag boy at Albertsons, and I was dating this girl in the bakery section. Her name was Nicole. There wasn't a real flame there between the two of us, but my favorite checker, his name was Lincoln. And one day we were talking about Nicole, and he asked how things were going and showed some interest. And so I told him, I said, hey, this isn't really going anywhere. Do you want me to kind of introduce you to her? And he's like, you're going to introduce me to your girlfriend? I'm like, yeah, well, when you say it like that, it sounds weird. But, maybe there would be something there between you two, which there was. They ended up getting married. They ended up having a family, and he ended up going from Albertsons as a checker to being a Idaho Falls police officer. And so not long after that had happened, he took me out on a ride-along, and that was my first exposure to law enforcement. And nothing happened. We made a few traffic stops, went on a couple of nothing burger calls, but I do remember sitting in that car thinking, man, this is this is cool. Like look at all these gizmos and gadgets, and look at what police officers represent in the community, and the possibility of really having big impact. And so I was just sitting there taking it all in. I was 19 when this happened. So I was just trying to figure out what was going on. And after that ride along, I started doing some research into it, and it was just one ride along, so I wasn't sure if that was what I really wanted to do. But I did find that there was a 9-month program through Idaho State University in Pocatello that you could go through a college program, and you could get detention certified and patrol certified. So you get to go through the academy. You have to pay for it, where otherwise when you're hired with the department, they will pay for it. So I paid for that, went 9 months, and really got exposed to the whole thing. I did several ride-alongs with the Pocatello Police Department, which that was a kick in the pants because Fort Hall Indian Reservation was right there, and there was always things going on, always problems, and then when it came to those that were that lived on the reservation, there would always be like this short pursuit, where if they could get to they could get to the line,
border, yeah.
They could get to the border, they could get in, they beat us, right? And so it was almost like a game to them.
So, dude, I grew up like 3 miles from that border.
Oh, okay, so
some of those chases would go by my house.
yeah. So that's how I really got exposed to it, and then I was like, yeah, I want to do this. This is cool. This is fun. It fits my personality. It fits. It just fits. So I did continue on, and I moved from Pocatello to Boise, where then I started going to Boise State University. I got my degree in psychology. I started with the Ada County Sheriff's Office in 2006, and that's where it all began. I spent a year working in the jail as a detention deputy, and then in 2007 I went out to patrol, and then I did that full time until starting our first business in late 2013, early 2014.
Okay, so talk about that transition, because so what, 7-8 years you were on the Boise Police Force?
Yeah, Ada County, yeah.
What's Ada County? Excuse me. What made that transition? Because a lot of times you think of when someone goes into law enforcement, man, that's their career. That's what they do their entire working life. So, but you didn't. How come?
I didn't. Yeah, there is actually some statistic out there that says when a cop gets to about 6 years, I think that's really kind of a pivotal time frame in every cop's career, because they get to that place of being seasoned enough and exposed enough to be able to say, is this still what I want to do forever, or is it not? And I got to that point, and I started questioning whether or not I would actually be able to retire from it, largely because I loved finding bad guys. I just enjoyed that hunt. To me, it was some sort of like puzzle, where it's like they're out there, I just have to find them. So I was one of those guys that would stop anybody for anything, right? If the registration sticker wasn't in the right spot on the license plate, and the Idaho code said I'd be at the bottom right of the plate and it was on the top left of the plate, I'd make that traffic stop. I pulled people over for everything. Now I in the 8 years of being on the road and doing this, I probably gave a dozen tickets in that entire time, because it was never for me anything more than just who's in the car, are there warrants, are there drugs, what could be happening in here. And dude, you'd be surprised at how many really big cases came from such a cheesy traffic stop. I mean, I solved really significant cases and arrested really really bad people from like a no blinker, or they went over the center line or something, and I love that. It was always just like a game for me to see if I could find them, and I they drive the beater cars, they drive the most the most expensive nice cars, the brand new car. Like you could never really tell, right, what you're going to come across. But about that 7-year time frame, I started thinking, when you work for a police department or a sheriff, your politics is a real thing. The sheriff is an elected official. The police chief is appointed by the mayor, and in you have the city council, or you have the county commissioners that they report to. Like, politics is definitely a part of the equation, and so, like, if their guys are making the news for things, or like there's something going on that makes them nervous, or they're starting to get flack for politically, it makes its way through the ranks, and then before you know it, you're starting to feel like, man, it's becoming harder just to do good cop work. And that's how I started to feel, largely because I just love turning over every stone. And when you do that enough, you will get people who will run, you'll get people who will fight, you'll get people who will barricade. Like, when you come across a bad guy, they don't just say you got me. So there was one summer where I was like in 7 different pursuits, and most pursuits don't end with, like, most pursuits end with a crash of some sort, right? And sometimes they end up driving into a daycare at 2 a.m, and driving straight through into the building in downtown Eagle, and so, like, I was a topic of conversation a lot, and I was thinking, I don't think I can do cop work the way that I want to do it, and be able to survive this thing. I'll have to get beat down, and put into a corner. So you then, at the same time, the family had an opportunity. My mom and her 2 siblings, they took my grandmother's share of a building that was downtown San Francisco, that my grandmother and her brother, it was a business that they started, kind of like a sporting goods store, and it was on Market Street, so in a very popular, highly sought after area, and the Hilton approached the family wanting to demolish the building and put a hotel there. So between my mom and her 2 siblings, and then our uncle, they worked out a deal, and so everybody came into a little bit of money. My mom said, if you didn't do cop work, what would you do? And so when you take all these elements about where, like, my headspace was at about, could I really retire from this profession with, well, what would I do? And that's where my brain started thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. And so I consider myself to be an accidental entrepreneur, because it was that recipe that eventually led me to starting that first business.
So that first business, I want you to talk about that, because that's adjacent to law enforcement, right?
Yeah. I mean, my degree was in psychology. I had no business background, training, experience, anything. And so when she asked me that, I'm like, well, I know enough to know that I should do something I'm good at, and that I enjoy, and that there's some sort of gap in the market. Like, I need to fill a void of some sort. I knew enough to do that, and so Idaho being a very pro self-defense state, it's a open carry state, it's a constitutional carry state, meaning that you just have to be an Idaho resident over the age of 21 and not disqualified from having a firearm, and you can carry concealed. It's a very low bar to be able to carry a firearm with you, just in the event of a bad thing happening. Fantastic, if you just look at it through the eyes of ability to bring a gun to a gunfight, and not be disarmed by the government. So really nice from that standpoint. But from an actual, what's the probability of making the right decisions and not hurting an innocent person, and not committing a felony that would land you in prison? I mean, how many other things could be worse than being victimized by some dirtbag, right? That comes into your world. You pull the trigger, accidentally shoot an innocent person that's 100 yards away, but that stray bullet kills them. And now here you are being charged with, manslaughter or, some other felony, and having to spend your entire life savings to try to keep yourself from going to prison, and then sometimes still end up going to prison, right? So there's that end of the equation, and because there was so many self-defenders out there that I knew weren't getting training, because that's where the void was. There wasn't a void. I opened up, it was called Forward Movement Training, and we leased out a 60,000 square foot space. 30,000 of it was inside, and then an additional 30,000 outside. And we built up what like would be like a scenario village in there. We had a 2-story house, we had a bank, and that so you and I met at Icon Credit Union was the credit union that sponsored the structure inside of our facility. That was my relationship with them. We had vehicles, we had a shooting simulator, mat rooms, everything that you would really need to be able to perform virtually any kind of real world urban type force on force scenario. And so it was designed to be able to train anybody that wanted to have a firearm for self-defense, whether it was in the home or out and about. And then we had contracts with most of the feds, most of those agencies we had contracts with, most of the local departments we had contracts with, and then we had a few government contracts as well that trained out of there. So it was like a reality-based training facility.
When you put that together, so had you seen some cases go wrong where people defended themselves and ended up in prison?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, just being in law enforcement, I mean, there was, a neighbor dispute in particular that I went to where it was over sprinklers and flooding and dog poop, and it just festered amongst these two neighbors, and then one started accusing the other one of trying to poison their dog, and then on this particular day there's a guy that goes out and they're arguing, and he grabs his shotgun, but he unloaded the shotgun before he brought it out, thinking that this guy's on my property, he won't leave my property, and so I'm going to demonstrate like dominance.
Intimidate.
Yeah, I'm going to intimidate. And well, I mean, by the time we get there and we're like trying to figure out what the hell is going on, he's not thinking there's any trouble. He's like, no, he's like, yes, I did it, but it wasn't, I made sure it was unloaded. Like the guy, there was no possibility of actually shooting him. And so he's kind of thought that he was going to be fine. And then he talks to the other guy, he's like, I definitely thought he was going to shoot me. Like, I didn't know it was unloaded. He didn't tell me it's unloaded. Like, he's pointing a shotgun at me. And, the way the law reads is like, if this guy, the victim, if he genuinely fears for his life, first of all, he could have shot the guy back, right? If he's generally feeling for his life. But he was unarmed, but he thought he was going to die. And that's enough to fit the code for a felony aggravated assault. So that guy, he ended up getting arrested. He went through the court system. Neither one of these guys were bad guys. I mean, they like individually, they had lots of people that loved them, and they were like good, productive members of society. They just had just crazy bad blood between them. So this guy, he did like a couple months in jail in county, and then but you're a felon, so now you lose like all kinds of rights, and it becomes like a lifelong thing. So yeah, it's whether it's something like that or legit. Shootings that, like, we had one guy get shot in the leg over a road rage thing that should never have happened, but it was the guy who pulled over first who shouldn't have. So yeah, there was a number of circumstances where you're just like scratching your head thinking, dude, how the hell did you even get to this place? Like, what were you thinking? And then you realize, well, there's not a lot of thinking when you're in that kind of fight or flight. Lizard brain, the amygdala, it's like the ancient part of our brain, right? It's like it's live or die, and the whole reasoning and logic, the frontal lobe piece, that's out of the equation. For a lot of people when they've never experienced anything like that before, and so they don't. After the fact, they're like, "Holy shit! I think I've got a problem on my hands. Like, I think what I did may not have been correct." But it's at that point it's too late, right? At that point, the thing already happened. So you feel for those people for sure. But that's with the reality-based training, you can build those pathways. You can. It's like jiu-jitsu, right? It's like you do things enough. You find yourself in enough positions enough times because you've been there before. You've experienced it before, and repetition. Like these pre-built pathways as to what to do. Are there in those like crazy moments, and that's why we say you can fall back on your training. That was what our intent was, is to make our entire community safer, and make law enforcement safer, everybody safer by having a place where they could experience real world circumstances, because the brain doesn't know fake from reality when like it's a realistic enough scenario. Like it doesn't know training versus non-training. It just knows I'm getting shot at or I'm getting attacked. So we look to just put people in as many realistic scenarios as possible, in the hopes that they never actually had to leverage any of that training in the real world. But you just never know.
Yeah. Matt, if you had to put a percentage on, how am I going to articulate this? A percentage on, you have this kind of force on force training, right? Where you're doing simulated home invasions, or you're doing simulated building clearing, this kind of stuff that you guys did down there.
Mm-hmm.
How much of your training did you do when it came to these mindset things, when it came to the legal side of self-defense, and it came to the situational awareness and that kind of a thing?
Oh, I mean, it was hand in glove. Like one of our instructors was, he had his doctorate in psychology, and we had specific classes on the whole psychology component of it, because being calm in combat, staying like aware of your surroundings, fighting that tunnel vision, making logical, rational decisions. It's not something that's natural. And, we prove people wrong on a daily basis, right? Like we would have people come in that we'd be like, how often do you carry a gun out for self-defense? Like always. Not only am I, I go everywhere with it. I'm on the church security team. Like I always sit facing the door just in case, and like, okay. And what level of training would you say? Like, well, I went to this class this one time, and then but I watch all kinds of videos, and then I go to the range. I go to the range all the time. And like so confident. And then you put them in one scenario where it's like, it's a realistic scenario. And now for the first time, they're dealing with somebody that's actually moving around and engaging them and talking to them and like doing shifty behavior, and their hands are like, here and then maybe behind them, and they just crumble. And they, the number of felonies, right, that got committed in that building of ours, had those not been UTM rounds. Like we used UTM, which is like as close as you can get. UTM and simunition are as close as you get to real rounds that exist. I mean, it'll break the skin.
Those are both used with real guns, right?
Correct. Yeah. You just change the bolt carrier group and the rifle, and then it would be an upper receiver. So it would just do a rim fire on these cartridges. But yeah, it would pierce the skin. If you weren't wearing, like, if you weren't really heavily clothed up, like, you would be riddled with these bruises and things. And but yeah, they'd crumble. They would, and then after the fact, it's so humbling. And the crazy and scariest part is some people would leave. Their ego took such a hit that I'm like, if I ever see that person in public, and there's ever anything that like spooks my spidey senses that something could be going on, and they're in the equation, like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm like, that's a person who knows they're not prepared, has too much of an ego to continue to go down the process of really learning what they need to do, and instead are just going to ride this wave of machismo that they built up for themselves, but isn't based on reality. That would happen sometimes. Ego and pride would get in the way, but most of the time we had people that would stop caring altogether. Like we had people that said, after learning the realities of it, it's just in my safe. We're like, well, that's not what we want either. They're like, well, I just can't train at the level that I need to train. Once you get hit with reality, it's, it's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, I think we all think it's going to look like the movies, right? Mm-hmm. And you're just going to walk through there like John Wick and take care of business.
Yeah,
but it's not that way at all.
It's not. It's funny you say that, because last night the wife and boy and I were watching Godfather 2, and there's like one scene where a guy gets shot like in the chest, and he's just standing there, and he's like standing at the door, and then he shoots him again in the face and hits him in the cheek, and he's standing there like he's just like dying, but he's still standing there. and then he does like a final headshot, and then he falls down. And and the face one was just like this little red dot, as if it was just like this super clean entry and then no exit. Like it was just, it's not like the movies, that's for sure.
It's not like the movies.
No.
The little Hollywood spot between the eyes, right? It's not.
No, it's not like that at all.
No, it's, we kind of giggle about it here, but that kind of stuff's pretty gnarly. And I do think there's so many places in life when you talked about people's ego and them not being able to even stick around and receive the training. They just had to leave, right? Mm-hmm. We see that in the jiu-jitsu world, but we see that in the business world too, right? Where people are just, they don't want to learn. They think they know it all. They think they've got it all together. And there's that. Ego is the perfect way to put it, man. It's an unwillingness to really dive in and learn and be humble enough to ask questions and not go in there thinking you know it all.
Yeah.
Business owners, I want to talk to you for a second. Do you have a retail space inside your location? If so, I want you to think about something. Your customers are buying electrolytes. You know that, right? The problem is they're not buying them from you. Well, Salty Electrolytes can help fix that with their wholesale program. They can bring these sales to you in-house so that your customers get the electrolytes they love from the company they love, you. All you have to do is head over to goearnyoursalt.com and scroll to the bottom of the page and click Apply for Wholesale. Do it now before you forget. I know your type, I'm one of you. Once again, that's goearnyoursalt.com. The link is at the bottom of the homepage. There will also be a link in the description on this video. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
Yeah, and having a CEO mindset, but a white belt mentality, just in life, in all things in life, and recognizing that, we need to be the boss of our own lives. Like we need to take ownership, and there is no knight in shining armor that's ever going to come in and just save our day and pull us out of whatever circumstance we're in that is really hurting us. Like recognizing that, while at the same time recognizing we are so much more ignorant in so many more areas than we actually have any level of intelligence. And even the areas that we have intelligence, it's just a small amount compared to what is capable, right? And and so, I was taught early on in my entrepreneurial days, like the proximity, the power of proximity, and like how powerful it becomes when you will align yourself to other people who have that same kind of growth mindset, and but everybody's got their own different experiences and expertise and things, and collectively, like that's where really cool stuff gets built. That's where really cool ideas are formulated, and support exists that you can't find other places. But yeah, man, you have to pride and ego will kill opportunity. It'll kill relationships. It'll kill, it'll kill everything if you let it get in the way.
That is well said, man. So Matt, you ran this training facility for, remind me again, how many years?
We started in late 2013, late 2014, then sold it in 2019. 2019,
okay. Mm-hmm. So what prompted that pivot from there, that sale?
Mainly the end of our lease. We had signed a 5-year lease, and I, at that point, 5 years in, I had so many different areas where I would have done so many different things differently, and had I been wise enough to delay opening my first business by a year, and instead investing in like mentorship, the number of mistakes I could have avoided, the amount of pain I could avoid, the amount of money I would have not lost, but I didn't do that. I just went all in, and I was naive in thinking that hard work alone pays off, when it really oftentimes doesn't. You can work super, super hard and have very little to show for it in many different cases. And so at 5 years, when our lease was up, there was so many different things that I didn't structure correctly from the very beginning, that it made more sense for me to package the facility up, and I worked out a deal with the Ada County Sheriff's Office where that became their training center for. They really just moved from it maybe like 6 months or so ago. So like maybe they signed a 5-year as well with them. So it went on another 5 years there. And then I packaged up the civilian side, all of our memberships and everything that was happening on that front. And there was a former guy that was working for the agency that was getting out of that contract world. And I sold that side of it to him. And so at that point, it made the most sense to do that. And I had all kinds of ideas of different stuff I want to do. I also was at that point pretty tired of the whole tactics and, shoot, move, communicate, that whole thing. It had been just part of my life at that point since 2006. And I was ready for just to have different conversations and different challenges and things.
Okay. So two things there. One of them is that repetitiveness, right? And I'm gathering that's what you're saying. You shoot, move, communicate. Mm-hmm. But you say when you're doing any type of a training scenario, you're doing the same presentation over and over and over and over again, right? And that can get fatiguing. Is that what you're saying there? Yeah,
totally. So not only that, because we taught the enhanced concealed weapons class there. I mean, I could give that presentation in my sleep. Like we taught it once or twice a month, and I could do it. I could just do it because I knew every slide, every point, everything, and then you do scenarios and things, and how it's going to work out. You can tell already. Like how it's going to shake out and what the feedback's going to be. So there was definitely that element, but then it was also too just the conversation around guns and self-defense and stuff. It was just I lost the excitement for it. Like I wasn't excited to go in, and even though it was the coolest facility, it was awesome. Like you don't, as a civilian, you really don't get an opportunity to train in a place like that. I mean, it's very rare. There's a few places around the country. I still hear from people that used to train back there in the day, and they say, man, I wish you still had that place, and because it was super cool. But I wasn't excited walking into it. It was just it was work. It felt like work, and I didn't want to clean guns anymore and the solvent and things. I was ready for a new challenge altogether.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing, because there's you mentioned it with police work, that there's that 5 or 6 year period where guys start to question, is this still for me? Yeah. And that happened again with that, right? Where there's that same kind of time frame. And I do think somewhere around that 5-year point in my life, that's been a true thing on just about any venture I've had, where I had to make that decision. It's like, man, do I want to keep doing this?
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. I mean, because like with my upbringing, and it sounds like maybe with yours too, to a certain degree, like it was constantly starting over. It was constantly the new thing. And I did figure out the glass half full to it, and probably even to some degree like gamified it, right? Like just found the adventure in it all. So there probably is something very real about the fact that, because it's not just business, it's like, it's vehicles. It's I mean, we move every few years, right? Like it's just, I don't get attached to anything really. That is definitely part of my upbringing, is that I do not get emotionally attached to much. It's there's no real sentimental value to things. My wife, she grew up her entire life in the same house, and when her dad got sick and they had to move down to Arizona to be close to the Mayo Clinic, and they sold their house, like it was devastating for her, even though she hadn't lived in it for over a decade. So yeah, there's an element that kind of gets bored, and I like adventure. I like I was in SWAT for 5 years, and I love SWAT because it was, you never knew, right? You did not know how it was going to shake out. You just knew there was a real problem. Like something had happened. to where now SWAT needed to get activated and was involved. And, you know, it was always dicey. And I love that. So I think, you know, for me, it's if I'm not doing something new that's challenging me in some way or stretching me in some way, like I'll just get bored.
I heard there's this little video clip I saw the other day, and the guy said, it's the pursuit of happiness that we like. And I thought, heck yeah, man. It's always that pursuit. Yeah. It's not even reaching the goal, right? Reaching the goal is cool for 5 minutes. And then it's like, okay, where's the next goal, right? Dude.
So I refer to that as like being like constantly like happily dissatisfied, I guess. Like I would refer to it because people ask me would I go back to law enforcement. They've asked me that, you know, for years, and I did stay on as an admin reserve until 2019. So, you know, I had an advanced certificate from Post, and I had enough years and experience and training hours to where I was able to at any point go out and take my own police car out and go play cop for the day. And that was always cool because I had all of my stuff, I had the radio and things, and so if I heard like a ton of police cars going a certain direction, I'd go in the house, I'd turn my radio on, and I'd like, oh shit, there's a real problem that's going on. I'm gonna go play cop for the day, and I'd call like up one of the sergeants and say, hey, I'm gonna suit up and take out a car. Where do you need me? And they'd be like, hey, go and like get here as quickly as you can. Go and take this position or whatever. And I loved it. I never had to do paperwork. It was the coolest thing. A reserve guy accidentally shot somebody back east when they meant to tase them years ago, and so most departments actually got rid of their reserve program. But if they hadn't, I'd still be a reserve today. It was the coolest thing. But I did do that until 2019, and but you know the this whole like happily dissatisfied piece is like always knowing that there's more that could be done, could be more to be accomplished. Like you set goals and then you reach the goals. And no, I would not go back to law enforcement because the life that we've been able to create and the experience we've been able to have, the things we've been able to achieve, we're not in the cards for law enforcement. People don't get into law enforcement for wealth or recognition or, you know, legacy. Well, maybe legacy, but you know, yeah, so I would never go back. But I have found that because you never arrive, like there's never that, you know, oh, I made the most amount of money that could be made, or I landed the largest contract that could be landed, or like whatever, like I got this, I reached this goal. It's like, yeah, but that's like I'm not sending rockets in outer space and then having them come down to Earth and like catching them with chopsticks in the middle of the ocean like Elon Musk, right? So it's like,
right.
So I'm like, okay, what am I? So yeah, I'm happy like that this year is way better than last year or whatever. But like dude, there's so much more I could do, right? And that's that dissatisfaction piece. Like you're always dissatisfied because like I'm still not scratching the surface of my potential. So you're constantly working.
I feel that so much, man. Sometimes I'll just be, you know, you have those, I'm tired, it's late at night, I'm sitting there thinking about crap, man. So dissatisfied with certain areas of my world, you know, and I'll kill myself sometimes just like racking my brain on how I can change that. And sometimes that change has to happen over a long period of time, and I'm not patient, you know.
Dude, you know what I found recently, Riley? Probably like the last like year, I would say, is I love sleep, but I hate going to bed. It's like I love sleep, and if I can take a nap, I'll take a nap. But I found myself lots of times, like at first I was like, oh, maybe this is just kind of like a thing, but no, for like the last year, like I feel like I'm losing time by sleeping so much. But I'm in like the health and medical space, right? So a big part of what we do today is consult private practices in the holistic, integrative health, functional health, HRT, peptides, like these clinics that are doing cutting edge things and kicking Western medicine in the nuts when it comes to deviating from what Western medicine says is required in order to have like optimized health. Sleep is such an important component of it. So I know that, but at the same time, the entrepreneur in me is like, man, but if I can get away with 4 hours or 3, maybe like 3 hours, then like, I could start like hammering on this thing. So I've been working through that actually, because this week alone, I've gotten up a couple times at like 2:30. I'll go to bed at 9:30. And then a couple times I've gotten up at 2:30. This morning I got up at 4. I mean, I always try to get by 4:30 because of the 6 a.m. jiu-jitsu class. But I don't, if jiu-jitsu's at 6, I need to leave the house by 5:30. I don't want to be up at 2, right? But then I do want to be up at 2. Because then between like 2 and like 4 to 4:30, yeah, I'm working on stuff. So it's hard to shut the brain off. I'm working through that piece of it. I don't want to start taking stuff to sleep through, sleep more hours. So,
it's funny you said that, because this probably last October, November, it started dawning on me that my sleep needed attention, right? But I view it as almost the same as I would view working out. It's like I'm always glad after I've had a good night's sleep.
Oh, for sure.
But it's that procrastination that I just put it off. Push it later. Next thing I know, like there's not enough time between now and morning.
Yeah.
So now I'm starting to sleep. Yeah, that's funny, man.
Yeah.
I'm good about it that way, but
yeah, I'm good being in bed by 9:30. My batteries are depleted by 9:30. But then it's like, I don't know, the internal clock goes like, hey, asshole, there's work that needs to get done. You got 14 different projects simultaneously that you're powering through. And then once I wrestle in the bed enough and like that clicks, like I hear that, then I'm done. Like there's no like falling back asleep after that. It's just, so sometimes I'm mad at myself. I'm like, damn it, why did I have to say that to myself now? Like, can I like another hour from now? But
Matt, there was the other thing you mentioned in the conversation there. It's been a few minutes, but hard work doesn't always pay off.
Yeah.
You said that in the context of you're in that initial grind of a business, but there's more than just the grind, right? There's the strategy and there's the network, and there's all these other things. So when you said that hard work doesn't always pay off, what were you getting at?
I mean, the countless times that that I put in just crazy numbers of hours into things, and in time and money and in energy into something that ultimately there was a fraction of the fruit that I had hoped for, that I was planning on, and but ultimately it's like that was a waste. Like I just wasted 6 months and $80,000 towards this thing, and to be an entrepreneur you got to take risk, and I don't know about you, Riley, I don't have a crystal ball, and so I can't see into the future, and so it's like it's calculated risk. It's like calculating your probability of success versus failure, and we don't always get it right. And I've been an entrepreneur now for going on 15 years, and so there's been a number of times where like I was like, okay, I feel this. I can trust my gut, and generally I can like see around corners, and I can kind of like visually put things together, and then there's been plenty of times where it's worked, but man, it's painful when it doesn't. And so like that was my point, is that there is so much more to it than just being a visionary, or just being a risk taker, or just being financially sound enough to throw some money towards something and say like I don't want to waste this. I want a positive ROI. If it doesn't work out, it's okay, but it doesn't mean it doesn't suck when you like where'd that $250,000 go?
Right.
But for me, it's more of the time piece. Like I really look at the time that gets lost. Like I've demonstrated a number of times that I can make I can make a lot of money and I can lose a lot of money. The money is easy to come and easy to go, right? Someone coined that phrase a long time ago. Opportunities, going cool places, doing cool things, being on stages, like all of that stuff I can create, and it can also easily be taken away. Like the universe, God, whoever, like it can take it away too. But it's the timepiece that we know that once we lose, like it's gone. And our son, he's going to be 17 this month. He was 4 when we started our first business. And so, it just, you're always told, being a parent, your kids are grown up before you know it. And you're like, yeah, like that makes sense. But then, like, as an entrepreneur, you can like realize, like, if it does not make sense to work really hard and lose time that you can never get back with your family, never get those memories, never get those opportunities. And so that for me is like the has been the devastating part of working really hard on some things and not having much fruit come from it. But I was taught about 2015 by a mentor that, if you took some arrows in your back, if you stepped up to the plate, you stepped into the arena and like you gave it hell, but ultimately you got knocked on your ass, whether it was the same day or it was a year later. If you end up going in and getting knocked on your ass, then what did you learn from it, and what would you do differently in the future? So I've always, since 2015, taken that approach to say, I don't want to do that again. So the next time I take a risk on something, the next time I go down a certain path, how do I have a better outcome? And the like golden thread through it is like the people you surround yourself with. Like it's the number of times that success has resulted on the other side of hard work and things, because of being humble enough to ask questions, to say I don't know this thing, to hire good people, to understand leadership and be a good leader. Like that's all of the failures pretty much have come from like not being a good enough leader, not having the right mentors, and it's been solved by fixing those things.
Yeah, it's those unseen things, right? That they make. It's not that hard work doesn't pay off, right? That's not what you were saying. You were just saying
sometimes it doesn't.
To it,
sometimes I like
there's these other things that amplify it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, like if I look at the first couple of years of the business, I worked more hours by far than I had ever worked in my entire life. And I was making less money than I had ever made in my entire life, because I didn't know how to do business. I didn't understand marketing. I didn't understand, P&Ls and balance sheets and, what a net promoter score was. Like I didn't know anything about business. I knew tactics. I knew room clearing. I knew close quarter combat. I knew that there was a lot of self-defenders in the area that weren't getting training, and that's what I knew. But I mean, at least for me, it paid off in lessons learned. Like in that way, it paid off. But when it came to being in business and like having a for-profit business, and when you own a for-profit business, like at the end of the day, how are you measuring success and like effectiveness of your business? What's your profit look like, right? When you own a for-profit business, like, and so, but no, I'm flush with lessons learned for sure. So yeah,
that's an interesting thing, because you're into that place of, well, classic technician who thinks he's going to go start a business, and yeah, he's a great technician. Sure, you knew how to train guys how to clear a room, but crap, man, you didn't know how to run a business, right? That different skill sets. It's a different art form.
Yeah, it is. It's an art and a science for sure.
Yeah. So now you've moved from that business, you sell it, and you've pivoted into something else now, and I want you to talk about it. All right, you sweaty buggers. That liquid dripping off your forehead and down your back contains minerals that are critical for high performance. If you don't put those minerals back, you're not going to perform well. This is where Salty Electrolytes comes in. Salt contains 6 electrolyte minerals plus a touch of iodine to help you replenish after a hard workout. Salt is the only electrolyte supplement to pair every mineral with its counterpart, giving you the most robust mineral profile on the market, period. Head over to goearnyoursalt.com today to get some for yourself. Use the code GOEARNYOURSALT to get 15% off your first order. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
Yeah. So as a result of figuring out the power of proximity, of surrounding myself with the right people and learning a lot of lessons, that's not nearly as common as it really should be. Many things, Riley, they are common sense or just not common knowledge. And so very few things are unanswered in today's world. But when you don't know what questions to ask, when you don't know, when you really don't even know how to articulate what you're solving for or what the win looks like, it makes it really tough to progress. And so through my own mentorship from about 2015 to 2019, people had seen that I was going from this completely naive, former cop who became an accidental entrepreneur, but was white knuckling it and working hard for very little ROI, to achieving some success, some recognizable success. And so I started implementing getting asked questions from others that were small business owners, like, hey, what do you think about this? Or how should I do this? And so I'm very vocal, ask the questions, check your ego, whatever the biggest problem that somebody has at any given moment, there are others that have the exact solution. They know exactly what to do because they've already walked that path before. And it just becomes a matter of finding them. And if they're not in your immediate circle, then reach out beyond that. But they're there. People are there. That thing where I don't know what I'm gonna do. I literally don't know what I'm gonna do about this. I've tried all these other things that haven't worked. Somebody else 10 feet away is like, bro, it's easy. Don't do this, do this instead. You do it, holy shit, that worked amazing. I wish I would have known that before. So I started getting people asking me questions, and I would share what I had learned. It would work for them. And then at some point, I started thinking I should charge for this because I'm investing time and energy, and the amount of money it costs me to learn these lessons is a lot, right? So I'm like, if I'm going to help you make money, then I'm not going to just give you my time for free, give you this advice that cost me, multiple 7 figures over the years, and tons of arguments with my wife and sleepless night stuff. I'm not going to give that to you for free. You turn around and you go make a bunch of money with it. So then I was like, okay, well, here's the price tag. You want let's sit down, let's do a whiteboard session. Let's problem solve this. I'm very confident. Based on my experience, I can help you with that. Here's the price tag for it. So I started charging for consulting in 2018 timeframe, and people would take what I had to offer to them. They would do the thing and it would work, and I was like, okay, I'm actually pretty good at this. I can use that SWOT brain of mine that's always problem solving ahead of time, and thinking about here's the main objective, but then here's we get denied that, here's our secondary and then tertiary breach points, and using that side, the psychology side, and my business experience, I was I'm actually pretty good helping people. And the evidence of that is the outcomes that were produced immediately after them implementing the guidance that I gave. And so then I just started having more people come, and I started charging more money, and I got to a point where I was like, I'm going to make this like the main thing, because I'm making a lot of money. I mean, I started making about, and this is just to give you a sense of why I made this main thing, but about $3,250 per hour I was on the phone with a client. And so as soon as I started looking at like, okay, well, what other job could I get, or what other thing could I do where I can exchange an hour for $3,250? It wasn't there. And, some people may wonder, well, who's going to pay you that much money to talk to them on the phone for an hour? Well, the people who they pay $3,250 for that hour, and that makes them $20,000 or right. $50,000 or $100,000. Like, that is just simple math, and that's what that's been since like 2018 timeframe. We also have some ownership in a company called FitPro Tracker, which is a software company for gyms. I'm a minority owner of it, and then we have another software that we white label. It's called Ignition Systems. It's for medical practices primarily, but it's a CRM billing system it's fully HIPAA compliant, that we integrate with clinics that don't have that system in place.
Mm. You it's kind of a fun thing though, because watching you come along and realize at some point these coffee shop meetings you're having are valuable, right? Mm-hmm. And then turning that into a business. That's to me, you've said it twice now, right? You talked about when you left the police force, you found this hole in the market, an area that needed attention.
Yeah.
And you were aware of it because of your career, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now this other thing starts happening where you sort of slowly became aware of the fact that, oh crap, I have something to offer, man. I have some understanding of the business world now, partly through my School of Hard Knocks, that have turned me into this, give me some wisdom here on understanding how this little machine works, and now I can pass it on to other people, and that has value, which, back to what you said, what people are going to pay that kind of money for that kind of advice? Well, they'll pay $3,000 to make 20 all day long. You can make that trade a whole bunch of times, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's something that I learned. Well, first of all, I was helped with my relationship with money to understand the value of money and the value like that I brought forward, and how to charge for certain things and how to think like this. But just to kind of simplify it, because it's entrepreneurs that tune into your podcast, is the bigger the problems you solve for people, the more money they're happy to pay you for it, right? It really is just kind of that simple. And so focus on solving big problems. And when you clearly do solve big problems, and it's not just like good marketing and good social media, but like when you have somebody in front of you who says, all right, I'm going to hire you and I'm going to pay you a premium because you're going to give me a premium outcome, and that premium outcome is worth far more than the premium price tag that you're putting on it. If you can deliver on it, you've got a business. You've got a business that can grow. But you do not have a business if you're just really good at marketing and really good at conversations, convincing somebody to spend, some money with you up front. But then like the moment that the rubber meets the road, they're like, oh, you're just a snake oil salesman. Right. So
that's what we call gimmicks, right? It's that gimmick sales. My wife and I were talking about that just yesterday, on how in the electrolyte world, there's a lot of gimmick, man. There's a lot of just fluff, and they make a big deal out of that, and it seems very convincing. But when you get down to it, it's a pretty lame electrolyte drink that, really shouldn't be saying the things they're saying, because it's flat false, Yeah. But what would you say is the defining thing that really separates those two approaches, right? Because you're in the consulting field, right? In the consulting field, that usually means I'm between jobs. That doesn't mean a real career, right?
Sure.
It's one of those things just full of fluff.
Yeah.
But yet you've discovered a way to actually bring some results to people. So what's the difference?
I mean, so the outcomes you produce, I mean, truly, like if one of the areas where people get jammed up right away is that they're chasing the almighty dollar. Like their focus is on the dollar, and they're like, I want to make, X millions of dollars per year. And it's like, because then I could buy this, and then I could live in this zip code, and then I can be on that boat and whatever. And what I have found, Riley, is that people who are chasing the almighty dollar because their greed glands are just secreting, that's a very, first of all, that's the complete wrong why, and people pick up on it. People people will figure you out. They, if you do anything long enough, like, people will start to believe their own eyes and own experiences. And in today's world, where like it's so easy to learn like just about anything about anybody, like if you can't deliver, you're like, people aren't going to trust you, and you're going to find yourself looking for other work, and hopefully a job that you're actually good at, that you can actually deliver, because people are paying for outcomes, they're paying for results. When people buy salt, they're not paying for a drink or a mixed for their water, right? They're not even paying for the contents that are in the package. What they're paying for are the outcomes that your product produces, right? If what your product produces is better clarity, is the hydration that leads to more focus and better sleep, or whatever it is, right? I like, the science of it, but if I'm just going to give you an example of like this big problems charge big money. If I'm an entrepreneur and I'm sitting in a boardroom a lot, or I've got a trip overseas, and we're going to have really long, really tough negotiations or conversations, and I need to be at the top of my game. Because when it's go time, like my shareholders and stakeholders and board, they don't care about jet lag. They don't care that it was an 18-hour flight. They don't care that I like have not been sleeping well. Like what they care about is, did you meet the objective or not when you were there, right? And so if I'm going to be put in that position, I'm going to say, what do I need to do to optimize? Like, so that way the 18-hour flight is a non-factor. The time zone thing's a non-factor. The fact that I have had to eat out of the house and haven't been able to have like home prepped meals isn't a factor. Like, what do I need to do to optimize so that I can go into that room and I can think more clearly, make better decisions, outlast them in negotiations by way of it's like a game of like who can tire the other person out faster, right? Like who can maintain mental strength the longest. If what I'm negotiating is a $100 million deal, and salt, by way of what it does, is it will scientifically dramatically improve my probability of success. That amongst other things that I would need to, like nutrition and whatever. And it's a major contributor. We're talking about $100 million deal that's on the line. What is the value of making sure that's in my system, and that it's a part of what I do, right? Do you see where I'm going with that? Where it's like, yep. What problems is it solving? It's not just the content. It's not like, we just rehydrate. No, if you're helping people think better, if you're helping people perform better and do what they do at a much higher level than their competitors, that is massively valuable. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're paying for. They're paying for their performance. They're paying for those outcomes. So when it comes to the consulting side of it, the money's a lagging indicator of does the consulting work or not. Right. Because people pay for done, right? People vote with their wallets, and so If you're making a lot of money consistently over years and you're doing it the right way and you're not a fraudster, then that just inherently means you're good at what you do and people are happy to pay you for it.
I love that you're saying that, man, because I do think that's the nobility of business that I've always felt is a well-run business creates happy people, and they vote with their wallet, is what you said. And I love that, because that's whenever we pay for a service that brings more value to us than the amount of money we just parted with to purchase that service, it's always a pleasure. You walk away feeling like you just got the better end of the deal.
Yeah.
And both parties win that way. And I love that. I love that in the business world, man. It fires me up.
I mean, really, as it should, because it's look, like being an entrepreneur is one of the hardest things hardest journeys that somebody can put themselves through. And but if you do it right, it can be one of the most rewarding things as well. And so it's the people that I feel for, the ones that they go all in and they become entrepreneurs, and they put it all out there, and it doesn't work out for them because they didn't recognize what they were really stepping into. They didn't recognize the amount of resilience and tenacity and grit, the amount of communication skills that need to be had. They just don't recognize really what they're signing up for, and it doesn't work out. I feel for those ones. I don't feel for the ones that don't work out because they got seen for being a shyster or for not putting the people and the outcomes first. And that's why it's interesting, because I've never priced anything compared to competitors. Ever. I don't know what other people in this space charge. I know some because they're just they're in the network, and I know that I don't charge as much as some of them. And I have been asked before. There was one where I did a consult, and they're like, "Hey, you only charge." I think I was charging. I think they want to do like a half day whiteboard session, if I remember right. And I was like, I charge $10,000 for a half day whiteboard session plus travel if I'm coming to you, or you can pay your travel and come to me, but the half day is $10,000. And they're like, so and so, they charge $30,000 for that. They're like, so why aren't you charging that much? I'm like, first of all, I don't know what I didn't know that they're charging that much. Second of all, because that's the price that I want to charge for it, because I'm exchanging my time, and that's what I feel I want to exchange it for. I'm like, if you want to pay 30, I'd be happy to charge you 30, but mine's 10. So it just, the money piece has to come. It has to just be, the right part of the equation. And if you're a for-profit business, profit does matter. But I price things based on what I feel my time is worth, based on I feel what results I can produce, and the value that I assign to it. And I don't let other people's pricing raise or lower what I charge.
I think that's so wise, man, because I hear that a lot, especially in the service industry, right? Where businesses will shop their competitors and then charge that. And I'm like, okay, but what if your competitor's losing money because they're not charging enough? Yeah. What if your overhead's different than theirs, and so you need to charge more than they do? There's a lot of what ifs, and that's, you'll hear people say that's all the market will support. It's like no, that's not true.
Yeah,
not true.
That's totally false. No, I mean, you're right. Like there are unknown factors there that really shouldn't. We will work with these private practices all the time, where I'm saying, where did these pricing come from? They're like, I see that's what other people are charging, and I don't know that other people would charge or would pay much more than that. So how are you coming to that conclusion? Like, I don't know. Then they don't know. It's like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to 6x what you're charging now, and then I'm going to show you exactly how you're going to be able to charge that, and people are going to be happy to pay you for it. and that's actually one of the funner parts of when I'm working with a client is like they don't want to root against me because they're like, that would be amazing. You can 6x what I'm charging right now, and we see higher conversions. That would be amazing. And I love the like, I don't do the I told you so, but I'll be like, so what would you like to focus on now? And it's that's cool for me because when you start solving the money problems for entrepreneurs, so many other doors start to open up. And for the passionate entrepreneurs, like, I work with doctors and nurse practitioners, those that are in the space of helping people. Like, they're so passionate about that when you start solving the money problems, now it's like they're able to help more people, and they love that. And so it's that's really what fires me up.
That's so cool, man. I could go on for hours about that. We're not going to, but man, you're firing me up here. I love to hear it. So talk about this, Matt. So you in the consulting space, but now with Profit Practice, you have narrowed your audience down, right?
Yeah.
Over the years, you've found your audience. So how did you go about that? Because I think that's something I've talked about on this podcast before in other episodes, where with my mobile oil change company, it took me about 3 years of doing it before I really narrowed down who my customer was, so that I could then cater my message to that person. Right?
Yeah.
How did you pick your audience?
I was mentored into it. So I was asked many years ago, like, who's my ideal client profile? And I'm like, anybody who's got a gun, right? Anybody who like has a gun that's like attaches a self-defense component to that gun, like, that's my target audience. And they're like, no, that's not a fact. Like, technically, yes, but the reality is no, that's not your ideal client profile. And they helped me identify what that means. And then I learned this saying that the riches are in the niches. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me more about that. And so, I learned that, when, first of all, there's a certain client profile that I just enjoy working with more. There's certain work that's being done that's more exciting to me than others. And so when I first started the consulting thing, I wasn't niched down to anything. In fact, I was more or less doing a proof of concept to myself to, like, is this going to just be a side hustle thing, or is this something that I can really build a business on top of? And so I would just take on whoever. And so I had construction companies, I had, mechanics shops, I had tattoo artists, I had, I still to this day for like the last 4 years have had a lure company out of Oahu. It's called Sutumu Lures. Garrett, he's a stud. But like, I had like this, just like, there was no rhyme or reason to any of them. But for me, like, business is business, and so I was having success with all of them. But then I got my first functional medicine clinic, and then I started getting exposed to, like, okay, what does it mean when they are winning? Like, as I'm helping them thrive, what's happening as a result? And as I started to go through that process, I had this one client that was a diesel mechanic shop, and through our work, after a few months of working together, they had increased their sales by over $100,000 in a single month. And so they like smashed, they'd been in business for about 11 years, and they had smashed every goal that they had ever had. This was just after a few months of working together, getting things really dialed in. And so they did over $500,000 in a single month in just fixing cars. And and so I get a call from the owner, and he says, "Hey, what's your address? I want to send you something." He's like, I got something for the team, and I got something for you as well. I give my address, and about a week later or so, this box arrives, and it's a super cool, like, Henry Henry's 22 like action rifle, you know,
lever
and
action, yeah,
a lever action rifle, yeah, and on it it's got my logo, it's got the company's logo, and then it has 500K on it, and it was what the owner did to celebrate this huge accomplishment that this little local and some small rural midwestern town was able to do, and that was big money, especially for like in this little town that they're in. And I remember getting this rifle. I'm like, this thing is so cool, and it's hanging up on my wall downstairs as we speak. But I was thinking, man, like that's cool and all, but what does that really mean? It means that they just got more cars in and out. Like we got them efficient enough, we got the team dialed in, and like we like rearranged like where tools would be found and systematized like how cars would come in and come out and stuff. But all it meant was just more cars. And so at the end of the day, it was like, yeah, people got their cars back faster, which is cool because they, you know, they don't have to shuffle around how they're getting to work and maybe pay for rental or, but I was like, that's not it. And this was at the same time where now I'm on these calls with this other client at the functional medicine clinic, and she's like, hey, I was able to hire another provider, and now we're able to bring on an extra 200 patients for this provider's caseload based on the type of clinic that they're in. And I was like, that's cool. Like that's like, because now you're talking about 200 people that are going to get quality care in a from a functional medicine, which is like holistic precision medicine. It's about your labs. It's about like you as a person. They get quality time with the provider. I'm like that. That lands with me. And that's where I started transitioning to. I'm like, I'm done taking on just any Tom, Dick, and Harry small business, and it's only going to be those that are in private practice, functional medicine, naturopathic, and that's it. And it's been that way for the last like 5 years.
It's so cool, man, because you know when you've narrowed down to who your prospect is, now you've learned to speak the language, right? Mm-hmm. And you can serve that person so much better because you're tailored to that. It's like,
yeah,
it's just as amazing to me when we found our client with our mobile oil change company. It was that way. It was like, now it's like red carpet service. They love what we do, and it's easy for us to serve that person. And one of the things you had said in there was, you know, you found the people you like to work with, you know, and that was part of the equation for us. It was it was fellow business owners. I've always loved to work with business owners because if something happens that isn't ideal, you know, we have a problem, they get it. Dude, they identify with it because they've just had 5 of them that day.
Yeah,
right. And so when we go back and fix it, they're always appreciative, and they understand that things don't always go to plan, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, which just makes the whole process that much kind of more enjoyable, right? When you're just like, these are my people, and I get to do work that I enjoy doing. I get to kick ass at it, and I get to work with clients that like we vibe.
Yeah, we're homies. So, listen, man, I want to switch directions here for the last segment of the show, where we ask some, it's mostly lighter questions, but a couple of some pretty thoughtful questions. You game for that?
Oh, totally. Yeah, fire away.
All right, man. So, Matt, when you hear the term "go earn your salt," it's the name of this podcast. What comes to mind?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is are a couple of entrepreneurs in the Pennsylvania area that I met years ago that started a company called Fuel Hunt, and so those guys, I'd met them along the way, and I'm like, hey, tell me about the name of the brand and things, and he's like, we were just talking about one day where like everybody's got these goals and everybody's got, you know, these dreams and aspirations, and they you know, they want better. They talk big, but everybody wants to eat, but few will hunt. And that became like that's got a ring to it. it turned into an apparel company that is done quite well for itself. And so, that's what comes to mind first when you say go earn your salt. I don't know. Is there a scientific meaning behind the salt piece of it? When I hear it, I think like go out and do it yourself. Like go do the thing and earn the reward. That's what I think of. But I don't know if I'm
that word in there, earn, is kind of the big thing. It's more historical than it is scientific. It was soldiers and warriors and sailors, folks back in the day, they would be paid with salt. It was a preservative. It had a lot of nutritional benefit, but it was valuable, and it was used as a currency in some circumstances. And so when you hear the term like he was worth his salt, that's what that means. Like,
I have heard that.
That dude was worth what I paid him because his output, was more than it cost me. So a lot of the same things we've been talking about, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Matt, outside of the business world, what's your favorite pastime? We designed Salt Electrolytes with a very important concept in mind, something we call counterparts. Minerals have very specific functions in your body, but those functions are one-sided. For example, sodium allows water into your cells, where it stays until potassium comes along and lets it out. You know this as the sodium-potassium pump. Calcium and magnesium work in a similar way, so we put both in our drink. In our research, we came across data that showed us that nearly 98% of athletes are deficient on iodine. This fact prompted us to use iodine in our formula, but it turns out you cannot absorb iodine properly without zinc present. So what did we do? You guessed it, we added zinc. Every ingredient in our formula is paired with its counterpart. Authentic Salt Electrolytes is the only electrolyte drink that prioritizes counterparts. Get some for yourself today at saltelectrolytes.com and feel what proper counterparts can do for you. Go earn your salt.
I love jiu-jitsu. I started jiu-jitsu in 2017 with my son at Team Rhino, with Keith and company, and it turned into a father-son thing. And then about 2021, my wife got involved with it, and she started training, and so there for a while it was a real family thing. My son has stopped training since, which is a real bummer, because like those were like the coolest days where we all got to train hard together, and then like drove home sweaty and like quiet, and like thinking about why we got destroyed the way we did, and like and then the conversations. But we still watched all the UFC stuff together, and he's super into it. But I love jiu-jitsu. My wife's still heavily involved. She's a purple belt now, and so that's a big pastime. Believe it or not, I love yard work, mainly mowing.
Yeah.
I find that I actually do some of my best thinking on the mower, and when I'm doing yard work. So I really enjoy that. If I had to do like a blanket statement, anything that's outdoors when it's warm and sunny, I'm a super happy camper. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, man. Matt, where are you at? Are you brown belt now?
No, I'm a purple. Yeah.
You're still purple?
Okay. Purple. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 Yeah. All I remember, like we got to grapple a few times over the years, but I remember Kristen was much meaner than you.
She is very unassuming. She surprises so many people, dude. Like, she's just the sweetest, happiest. Like, she'll do the slap and bump, and she's just like, oh, I'm gonna like. Oh,
like shin across the forehead, sort of a thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit light on her, and then you start going, and you're like, Oh no, I got to turn it on. Like she's trying to.
She's out for blood, dude.
Yeah. And so many different times where I've overheard another part of the gym where somebody's like, "Oh, I did not expect that," and she's like, "Oh, thank you."
Your elbow out of my eye, dude.
Yeah. She's but she loves it. She competed in her first World Masters at IBJJF in Vegas last summer, and I think she's going for it again. She took silver. Oh. That was her first ever IBJJF, so super proud of her there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dang. Matt, what's something quirky about you people don't know?
Something quirky about me. Man, that would be a great question for people who know me. Do quirky people know when they're quirky?
I don't know, man. I think we all got that little thing we know is a little bit weird, but
yeah.
We don't want to
shoot. Something quirky about me.
I'll give you an example, dude.
Yeah, give me.
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
If I snap my fingers on my right hand, I've got to balance it out with snapping them on my left. It's just been a thing for me since a kid. It's got to be balanced, man. So.
Are you OCD in general?
Totally. Maybe, but I don't think so, but maybe. I am in that regard.
Yeah. Man. I feel like there's probably so many different things. I hate when things aren't aligned. I'll go, like, if I'm in somebody's house and they're, like, a picture on the wall is, like, just slightly crooked. I will just get up and go fix it, because once I notice it, then it drives me crazy. So like sometimes I touch people's things when I shouldn't. Let's see. I'm known for the Irish goodbye. I'm known for being
what a great. That?
It's when you just disappear without saying goodbye to anybody. So like if you're at a like family gathering or basically like any kind of event where there's people present and you just disappear, and then later people are like, "Hey, where'd Matt go?" Like my wife's like,
I've never heard that term, man. I love it.
No? Oh yeah. So my wife says going to get the jacket. So she learned we were just first dating and or maybe recently married. But we were at a friend's house and it was just the four of us. And we were doing game night. And I just got tired. Like it was like, I don't know, maybe it was like midnight or something. I'm like, I'm going to go get my jacket from the car. So I go and I get in the car and I just sit, and I put my jacket on and I just fall asleep. And then
you stayed in the car, huh?
Yeah, I stayed in the car. Irish goodbye, but you can't. It's really hard to Irish goodbye when there's only 4 people and there's only 3 others
right.
left, and one of them's your wife, right? Like it's way easier if there's a lot of people there. So I didn't last long, but ever since then, like even my son, like we'll go to a neighbor's or barbecue or whatever, and Kristen's like, "Where'd Matt go? Where'd your dad go?" And he's like, "He went to go get his jacket." She's like, So maybe that's quirky about me too.
You know, it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine. There was this friend he and I had in common that would do that. We'd get finished up with a big mountain bike ride, a big group of us guys, we'd be standing out there all chit-chatting. And next thing we know, it's just like, where'd Ron go? He's just gone, man.
Yeah. That's the Irish goodbye. Yeah, that's the Irish goodbye. It's just, I don't know why I don't like saying the goodbyes. I think probably because when I'm ready to go, if you're in a large group and you start saying goodbye, that's another 45 minutes.
That's right.
And I'm like, no, I probably just need to be better. Be like, okay, in 45 minutes from now, I'm going to be like, my fund meter's going to get paid. So I'm just going to start the process now before I'm really ready to go. But a lot of times I'm just like, no, I'm done here. And so I just will excuse myself.
Well, that's fair, man. That's quirky. Yeah. That's definitely quirky.
Okay, cool. Okay.
I love it. Hey, what's your favorite naughty food?
Cinnamon roll.
Oh yeah,
cinnamon roll for sure. Yeah, and my wife makes the best cinnamon rolls. So Easter, Christmas, and then my birthday. My son loves them too, but Yeah, I can't have them in the house. I will just smash on those.
Answer me this, because cinnamon rolls they're special. I agree. But I get about 3-4 bites into them, and I'm done with the cinnamon roll. Is it the same?
I'll take the rest of it.
Can you just power through?
No, you take 3 or 4 bites, and there's 8 or 9 left. I'll be like, hey, Riley, you gonna finish that?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I am that way with. Interestingly enough, you say that, and there are some things where if it's too sweet, if it's too rich, it makes my cheeks tingle, like the back of my cheeks tingle, and I can't get through it. But as long as it doesn't have too much frosting on top, I'll scrape the frosting on top. But it's something about like the warm bread and especially when you get to the centerpiece of it.
That centerpiece. I just throw the rest away and eat the center. Yeah,
dude, it's like the muffin top. It's just like it's the gold. It's the gold of it. Yeah, yeah. But that's definitely the food that I will not be anywhere close to my nutritional goals if those are anywhere within striking distance. Huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
love it, man. Yeah. Matt, do you have a nickname?
I do. So when I was in high school, it was Duke. I got the nickname Duke from my coach because he said I was like a Duke of Armor or something, like Dukes from the old knights kind of deal. That's what he said. Okay. That was quirky. It was cool, but that was my nickname there. I got the nickname Trunk Monkey when I was on the street crimes unit at the sheriff's office.
Is it off those old commercials, the Trunk Monkey?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I was attached to. I was on the street crimes unit. We were a plainclothes group that were attached to the U.S. Marshals fugitive team, and we had this situation where we were doing it's called an open air takedown, where we had followed a guy into a parking lot and then pinned him with our unmarked vehicles, and he gets out and he starts running, and it brought me back to the old high school football days because I came in and I got my truck stopped, and it just so happened that the direction he was running and my angle, like the contact was amazing. And yeah, and he did have a knife on him. He like almost got shot. He had a big bag of dope on him. When the U.S. Marshals are after you, you are not a good person, right? Like you've crossed the threshold into a different level of danger. But man, I connected on him. And so then after the fact, they're like, dude, where did you come from? Like you came out of nowhere like a trunk monkey. And then, and so that became my nickname there. I have the moniker of the Prophet Doc currently on the professional side that I was given a few years ago from Dr. Gabrielle Lyon.
Nice.
Yeah, for the work that I do on the consulting side. So got a few nicknames.
I love it, man. That Trunk Monkey, if you haven't seen Trunk Monkeys, look that up on YouTube. Yeah. That's worth your time.
Yeah, for sure. Those are good commercials.
Oh my gosh. Matt, what's the scariest moment of your life?
Ooh. Scariest moment of my life. I would say on the personal side, it was the day of my marriage. Because I remember thinking like I don't have like all I know is divorce. All I know is unhappy endings. All I know is broken families. And I was like I do not want to repeat the cycle, but I was not prepared to be a husband. Like I was not like shown the way. And so that was a really scary day for me because I'm like, I know I don't want to repeat the cycle, but I'm about to say I do, and make this commitment. And like, it felt like such a Hail Mary, and that'll be 20 years ago in just a few days. But the next time for similar reasons was when June 25th, 2009, when I became a dad. For two reasons. The first was because he was a month early. We had to do an emergency C-section because he flipped around, became footling breached. And so he had to come like right then and there in an emergency type fashion. So that was scary. But then like 30 minutes later, we have this human that now I'm thinking, I was never taught how to be a dad. All I know is like how I was failed by these men my whole life. That was super scary. Professionally, you know, that man, I if we had time, I could tell you a lot of different kinds of stories where it was like I didn't know how it was going to shake out, and you know, it was just there's you know, when you do law enforcement, especially SWAT, for a while, like there's no shortage of times where you're like, here we go.
It could have been bad, huh?
It could have been bad, yeah. But
yeah,
but I was lucky.
Yeah. It would be interesting to hear those stories. You know, I've talked to a lot of law enforcement guys on here that, yeah, they have those ones. They always have the ones that really stand out, right?
Yeah.
Matt, do you have something in your life that sticks out as the most valuable learning experience?
I guess for the sake of this being like a business centric podcast, I'll share when I was at the end of my rope. Like I was given some bad advice about, you know, hey, you don't know what you're doing, so just fake it till you make it. And well-intentioned but terrible advice, because you know, when you're faking it, the probability of actually making it is not super high. But I did take the advice, and I was trying to fake it till I make it. And then, you know, between like 2014, you know, basically when I started the business up to like 2015 timeframe, everything just started circling the toilet bowl. I mean, I'd gained like 60 pounds of weight from just working nonstop, eating fast food, stress on my mind. Was financially on the brink of bankruptcy. I had a terrible relationship with myself. My wife and I were fighting all the time. I felt like a total failure as a father because of how much time I was missing with my son, trying to make this business work. And when there was just nowhere else to run, like there was no money to rob Peter with, to pay Paul. There was just nowhere else to run. I had one phone number in my phone of an entrepreneur that I knew was successful. And I sent him a text and I said, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? And he said, yeah, of course. And so we met up at a coffee shop at the Village coffee spot. And I said, look, I'm going to share with you what I've been too afraid to share with anybody else. And he's like, all right, go ahead. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm in a situation, I don't know how I'm going to get myself out of it. Like I just know that if I keep going down this path, it's like everything I care about is feels like it's coming to an end. And he said, why have you been so scared to share that with him? He's like, did you not realize that's what virtually every entrepreneur experiences at some stage of their journey? And I was like, I did not know that. He said, yeah. He's like, what you're experiencing is not abnormal. In fact, it's far more prevalent than you clearly realize. And then he shared with me several stories about his journey, and so in that moment, I learned the lesson of like, you know, faking it till you make it is not a good strategy. Suffering in silence is not a good strategy. It's a form of self-sabotage to let pride and ego get in the way, and it's unhelpful to tell ourselves a narrative of why it is that we are doing a certain thing when in all actuality it's not the right thing to do. And simultaneously, like as I mentioned earlier, that like I was so close for the entire time to somebody who could have helped me avoid so much pain. and that whole proximity of power thing. So like in this one conversation, Riley, it was this like this blend of like a crazy amount of hope and like excitement that I don't know what the pathway is out of this, but there is one. And I know that for a fact because I'm not the first one to get to this point. And, if you know anything about like, Elon Musk in the early days of Tesla and how close, he was to, he was within hours of the entire thing collapsing, and there's countless entrepreneurs who have gone all in and like they were just at that point of almost ultimate failure and then was able to see themselves out of it. But when with the right people around you and the right level of work and humility, like, things become possible. And so that was a lesson that I was able to learn. Unfortunately, it took me too long to get there. But it was a paradigm shift for me in the way I looked at problems personally and professionally, and really started taking inventory of who I spent time with and who I allowed to exchange energy with, and the power of like pushing the bad people, bad stuff out, and then making room for the ones that will uplift and and like be like an asset. So yeah, it was an extremely powerful paradigm shift conversation that it completely changed like the trajectory of my entire life.
It makes me think, man, about so many entrepreneurs, so many business owners we've got that phrase, they say that it's lonely at the top, right? And a lot of times I think that comes because they have people around them that if they knew what they were either going through, either positive or negative, man, if they're making a ton of money, they can't tell anybody because everyone gets jealous. If they don't have people around them to celebrate those wins, right?
Yeah.
But then the same way goes with if they're having a hard time, they kind of don't want to tell anybody because people will, well, I told you so, they'll beat them down more. And so you do start feeling that loneliness if you don't surround yourself with the right people. And I love it, man. I've got a couple of guys that I can share a win with, and man, they're just there to celebrate it and not upset, not jealous, not, it's just, they're winning.
They don't
too,
judge.
right?
They don't judge. They understand, because we're all in peaks and valleys. I mean, look, we're in a peak today. 2 weeks from now, we could be in an absolute valley. And but dude, it's lonely at the top, it's lonely in the middle, and it's lonely at the bottom if you're not around the right people. If you're not surrounded by the right people, it's a very lonely journey because they're not the right people. You're mixing it up amongst others that are not on the same journey as you are. It is not lonely at the bottom when you're in the valleys and you're fighting tooth or nail to like figure the thing out, or in the middle when it's like, there's like some stability there and, things are kind of like in a good place. And it's not lonely at the top where, you're like, hey, like, we need to figure out, how like, we need some tax help. We need some investment help. We need like who knows how to be in this kind of space, right? And navigate through these kinds of weird challenges. None of that's lonely if you got the right people amongst you. Like it's just, and that's personal and professional. Like life can be very lonely. You could be surrounded by a million people. You hear about these like these superstars and these actors and actresses and these like, and they're so lonely because they don't, like, everybody around them is just around them because they're popular and because like the money and the opportunities and stuff, but they don't have any real friends. Like they don't have any real, so it's not just the number of people that surround you, it's the quality, and it's like, are they on the same journey? Truly, are they on the same journey, or not? Do they truly buy into depositing when that's the thing that needs to be done, and then asking for help and receiving and allowing for you to give back the way that they gave to you once? It's not lonely if you have the right people around you.
Right. Yeah. Those right people are just incredibly valuable, man. I love it. So, Matt, what's your favorite book of all time? Something you recommend anyone read?
Outwitting the Devil. Outwitting the Devil. Have you read it?
Nope.
Oh man, that's dude, yeah, that's a must. But it's a listen to read. So Napoleon Hill wrote this book, I believe, like in the 1930s. His family would not let him publish it because they were so worried about him being ostracized and like just kicked out of every network and community and relationship they had. And then he died, and his wife still wouldn't publish it after he died. She died. The family ended up publishing it, and this was a number of years ago. But this book is about Napoleon Hill actually sitting the devil down, and the devil can't lie. And Napoleon is asking him, how is it that you take control over people? How is it that you take hold of people, and people who have so much potential and are so capable that you get them off their path, that you get them to not achieve what they're capable of and things. And he talks about drifters and how the easiest people to sink his claws into are those that have no real defined purpose and no real meaning in their life, and they're just kind of drifting through. And you listen to the book because the devil's got this like grovelly voice to him, and it sounds like he's sitting across the table from Napoleon. But it's one of those books where you would never believe it was written in the 30s, because it talks about school and what our kids are exposed to in schools, and like it's like it was written today. But you think about it as an individual, as a husband, as a father, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a friend, and it's like if you really absorb it and you internalize it, you think about it, it'll change you. By far that would be my number one.
It sounds a little like the Screw Tape Letters. Have you ever read those, C.S. Lewis? That book?
Screw Tape Letters. I have not.
Yeah, it's a similar type thing. It's more in the spiritual realm, but it's
okay.
It's that, how does the devil deceive people? How does he turn the course? And it goes into this whole dialogue. So
yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna check it out, man. That sounds like a good one.
Highly recommend it.
Man, Matt, what's next for you, man? What's the next challenge? Where are you going from here?
Personally, celebrating 2 decades of marriage, navigating the what's next for the boy. We're setting up currently a little outing to go to the airport for the tower for air traffic control. He's super into aviation and things, and so like he's looking at military school. What does he do? So we're like going through that process of what's next. As a dad, is like trying to help him identify opportunities that really align with him, really excite him. So looking forward to doing things like that, going and seeing air traffic control and seeing does it light him up? Does it start to really shift his focus this last couple of years of school? It's getting my brown belt and eventually black, but next step obviously is brown. I've been purple for a few years, and so I just look forward to that journey to continue on. And then professionally, it's we're having a lot of fun with what we're doing. We are in the process of an acquisition for Fitbro Tracker, the software company. So we're hopeful that we will have will be acquired here before the end of the year. That might be a little bit ambitious, but maybe early next year. So that will be a huge milestone. And then, just growing. this consulting thing has really provided me and my family opportunity to be very flexible, very free, and so just continue growing that and having positive impact. I sit on a couple of nonprofit boards. One's for law enforcement killed in line of duty. It's called Honoring Idaho's Fallen Badges, and then another board for fortified schools, which helps raise money to support schools that can't afford, safety and security, training their officers of security and security teams, and so just continuing that work as well.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, where can you be found on the social medias?
On the socials. MattSchneider.official is the Instagram. It's the same on LinkedIn. You won't find me on there much. I have this. It's a real thing. I cannot get into it, Riley. I just can't get into the content creation.
I wish I could share that with you.
You like it? You enjoy it?
I'll get on there and get distracted, and then I blow way too many hours. Yeah, it drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, they're great at that stuff. So that's where people can find me. And I am on there from time to time. But you go to the website too, if they're in the medical field, if they own a private practice, and they're looking for maybe some help in that growth side of things, it's profitpractice.com. And and then if you're in the area, you can find me at Alliance Jiu-Jitsu with the missus mixing it up, or maybe at Team Rhino when I want to kind of get beat up by you and Ben and the others.
Well, I wish I could see you more often on the mat. That was always a good time, man. I always enjoyed training with you for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, man, appreciate you being here, dude. It's a fascinating interview because I think we come across a lot of the same obstacles just being in the entrepreneur space, right? And it's fun to hear how you've navigated that, and it's been cool for me because there's a lot to learn here, just listening to some of the solutions you've come up with for some of the same problems that I see on a daily basis, so thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, man, thank you for having me. And truly I always have fun with these conversations because from one entrepreneur to the other, some of the most impactful things that somebody can say and hear is I understand, right? And even though we do completely different things, we serve completely different audiences, we're walking the same entrepreneurial path, and so hopefully this is some value to you and your listeners and things that helps move things along, because I see how you're out there hustling and pushing this path forward. So best of luck with what you're doing too, and I hope to see salt on every shelf all over the places, and Element be taking a backseat to you.
I love it, man. Yeah. Matt, go earn your salt, my friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. You do the same. Thanks so much, Riley.
Hey, you've just finished up this episode, and I want to know, are you or someone you know a getting after it, go earn your salt type of person? If so, message me directly on Instagram at the Go Earn Your Salt podcast, and perhaps we can have you on the show. Also, if you like this content, leave us a review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And perhaps this podcast can help you and them go earn your salt.